So what am I going to try and do today? I've been using AI and automation for a couple of reasons, really. With some of my clients, we're sort of helping them to be better able to generate leads. And obviously, AI at the moment is a very hot topic. I've spent a lot of my time sort of investigating some tools, and I've spent quite a bit of time learning how to fine tune them. I'm not going to be able to cover masses today. What I am going to do is I'm going to try and tell you the context of how I've done this. I'm then going to do what will go horribly wrong, which is a sort of live demo of some of these tools in order to generate some of the stuff we're talking about. That'll go horribly wrong. So let's just accept now that that's going to go badly wrong, and we'll just move past it. And then what I'll try and do is, if that hasn't quite answered your question, I'll try and answer the questions afterwards. And hopefully you get some value out of this. If you don't, you can blame Alice. If you do, you blame me. So let's crack on with the main bit of the body of this. The first thing I'm going to do is just introduce who I am. In case you haven't been on one of these things before, you ought to at least know a little bit about who it is. Now, that was me, obviously, several years ago, and many kilograms ago. And I was a working scientist. In fact, down in the bottom right-hand corner of that photograph that you can see there is the DNA, the piece of DNA that I was working on at the time, which was in a particular virus, and that was my job. I was at the time I was doing research into persistent human viruses, and I left that profession because I thought that I wasn't best suited to becoming a university lecturer or anything similar. I was wanting to get out into business, and I left business and I started thinking to myself, hey, I can do all of this. And I've read about what business people do, and they go out and they just fly by the seat of their pants and they do stuff, exciting stuff. Well, okay, I managed to build a small business and then get rid of it. And then I discovered that in actual fact, way to do things was to actually be a lot more systematic in the way that perhaps I had been as a scientist. So I started building what I now describe as the scientific business value building machine, which is a series of interlocking processes, tools, which actually lead to proper business. And at the center of that thing is this thing that I call lead flow, this continuous drip of leads every business needs. So let me just explain that in a little bit of detail. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leap into the tools which I now use to help this process work. Now, what we are all trying to do is generate a sale, either because we've got an online product or we've got an appointment that we need to work with somebody as a consultant. What we normally have is some sort of web page or landing page, and we put information on that. Now, what I then work with people to do is get them to do two things, one of which is post things onto social media, which leads people to the landing page, where hopefully what they will do is leave their email address, which we can feed into a drip email system and educate them. Or we do cold outreach, and that's an area that I'm going to be focusing on a little bit today, which once again drives them to the landing page, where hopefully they leave their email address so that we can educate and generate knowledge. And using that process, simple, it's not rocket science. I know I'm a scientist, but it really isn't rocket science. What I'm trying to do is get people to give enough value so that we can actually convert them into a customer. Now, that is difficult if you're a single person or a small business or a small charity. There's a lot to do. Getting the right message out on social media, different ways of putting messages together, getting the right email and constantly sending emails, making sure that you've got all of that. So I've got a few tools which I'm going to work and show you today, which make a lot of that easier. So what we're trying to do things: lead capture, automate the collection of data. We're then going to do a little bit in terms of understanding how we do segmenting, and then lead nurturing. So all of that is allowing us to do this process that I described in this diagram here easier, quicker, and with AI, it gets very much easier nowadays than it ever was. So what I'm going to do, I'm about to go into the live bit of the demo, and I'm about to show you, I'm only going to focus on 4 tools because I want to have a discussion after this, but I'm going to show you 4 tools that I use to effectively automate my process here. And those 4 tools do the key things around this. The first one is this social media. We need to come up with interesting messages. We need to put the right messages here on our landing page. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how I do cold outreach, how I actually reach out to people I've not met before and enable them to do to talk to me. Now, at this point, I'm going to just put in a couple of caveats. The first of which is you have to make sure that you understand exactly who it is you're trying to talk to. If there is any doubt in your mind, if there's any failure that I see most of the time when people try and start this process, they have not properly identified who it is they're trying to reach. They're too broad. They think they can talk to anybody. They think that they don't have to be very specific. So my first warning about all of this is, unless you have it really well pinned down exactly who it is you are trying to reach, that you really understand what their problem is, and you understand exactly how your solution helps to solve their problem, you cannot use any AI tool because it will not get specific enough. It tends to be too generic unless you're extremely specific. So you really have to do the work before you start to say, I am trying to talk to this sort of individual. This is the problem they have. This is how it's hurting them, and this is how I help them. And if you've got that thing and you can back it up by understanding what I call your proven process, I mean, that means how you help them and exactly how people before you have been able to see that, you will be very much more successful. It does sound very basic, but I can promise you the number of businesses where I've come to start helping them, and the first thing they've said is, in answer to the question, exactly who is it we're trying to talk to here? And they go, our product will work with anything, or we'll sell it to anybody. That is just not true. You have to be really specific. Now, that's something that you'll hear just about every marketing person tell you, but it's something that I found is very, very critical to this, because putting the wrong information into these tools will inevitably lead to failure. So let's get back to these tools. It's at this point, I'm going to try and share a different screen, so it's all going to go horribly wrong. A different screen should now be showing on your screens. Is it, Alice? Can you just, yes, it is. Thank you. Okay, right. So the first one I'm going to talk about is how do we actually go about generating some of those messages that we either put onto the website, or we want to include in our marketing copy, or if we want to write them an email. So everybody's heard of ChatGPT. I'm going to show you this tool here, which is called Texter.ai. And the reason I like Texter.ai is it's basically a skin on ChatGPT, or at the moment, what this model is using, it's using Gemini 1.5, which is Google's voice. So you can, for instance, if you want, just put a simple thing into this tool, which basically says, now, once again, what I'm going to say about all of these tools, every single tool I'm showing you today is either pretty much free or it's a few dollars per month. I'm certainly not going to pick out some of the ones that you can get, which are $999 or something similar. It's just not affordable for most small businesses. So I'm really only focusing on ones which are at the more affordable end. I won't say cheap, because cheap means different things to different people. But Texter.ai I like because it is only a few dollars a month, and you can actually put in here to sort of what is the best drone for video, and describe it. And you can put that prompt in, and it will generate some interesting text. You can use it for searches. You can use it for doing some market research. You can do all sorts of things with this. Okay, So you can see it will come up with a whole bunch of you've successfully done this, and you've got a bunch of information. That's quite useful. I find it quite useful for doing research. I find it very useful. But the most interesting thing about this tool is when you get into this. This now puts a skin on a bunch of the things that you would normally have to type into ChatGPT in order to get a more comprehensive response. So for instance, say I want to properly define my value proposition for my website. I can literally go onto this thing and say, what's the value proposition? And I sell flowers for weddings. And you can change the tone of voice that you want this written in. You can change the style. So let's just go for a simple result. Welcome to our wedding flower shop. We specialize in it. So that's really quick. I don't have to sit and think about the words. Now, obviously, if I want to put in a bit more information, I went to say for with high value now, once again, I've got more specific because, as I said, if you don't go into the specifics, you get. So now I've got much more information that I'm able to use to target the person. So I've got 5,000 characters that I can put into this tool and generate much more detail if I've got more specific information. And the nice thing about text AI is it's not just value propositions, but I can do some stuff that probably most of us don't really understand in terms of this thing, which is called AIDA copywriting, which is something that you'll find with marketing copy. And if we put in the same sort of thing, flowers for weddings. So it's done what they call an AIDA, which is interest, desire, and action. And it's generated that copy for you relatively quickly. Now that saves hours of trying to go through. Now you can quickly make the changes that you want to that. You can very easily take that and adapt it if you look at it and go, well, I can make one or two, but it's a great basis for starting point. And the range of different things you can do with this, if I just script back to this, you can go AIDA, you can have ad copy, you can write down things like your event, if you're running events. You can do follow-up emails that allow you to stay in touch. Now, I know a lot of us struggle with follow-up emails because we don't really know what to say. Hey, if you want to do a follow-up email, you can do this. If you want to do a piece of marketing copy called Why Try Buy, which is, why would you want this? Why don't you try it and then look at it? You can easily write that in. You can write welcome emails. You can actually write your whole marketing strategy with this tool. So for me, text AI is a great way of putting a skin onto these large language models, which allow you to very quickly put together the text which you would otherwise spend some time thinking about. And for those of us that are not really used to writing, and those of us who are not great writers anyway, because sometimes it seems like a barrier to starting, this is a great way of just generating ideas and generating at least your first copy. The great thing about what I'm seeing with text AI is you can also write blogs. If you're struggling with blogs, and I think this is a really interesting development of this thing, and in a minute, we're just going to click this to actually sort of let it generate something. You can actually put in a URL of your website and it will start to generate blogs for you. So I'm about to do this. I've not actually describe my services. I haven't actually done it for this one, but we're going to put in my website. We're going to see what happens. Should have tested this before I said it was going to go on. So, okay. Oh, I haven't got any SEO credits, so that's not going to work. So we'll move on from that. I haven't actually purchased one of those. But you can see what you can do is you can start putting in information to this, and you can actually use this to generate blogs. Now, I was looking at what was going on Upwork just recently, and I've noticed that Upwork, which was a platform that a lot of people use to get their blogs written for them from Upwork. There are virtually no jobs posted at the moment for blog writing. And the reason is tools like this. People are just getting onto these tools and they're writing their blogs. So what I'm going to do, I will just go back and we're going to hit this one. This is one that I did play with earlier. It's just written that blog for me because I said, generate a blog for me about intermittent fasting. And there's an entire blog for you. Now, once again, if you want to put more specific words in, you will get a more specific blog. And you can obviously take this and tailor it. But it has written an entire blog. Now, if you're struggling to write blogs, and blogs at the end of the day are one of the best ways of doing SEO on your website. If you have got no idea what to write for your blog and you want to publish one every month, inside of less than an afternoon's work, I can generate 12 blogs. And I generate 12 blogs. Now I don't, but I could generate 12 blogs using this. And then all you have to do is download it as a document, do your editing, and import it straight into your website. Well, even if you want, download it as HTML if that's what you need it to do. And we'll then have it ready to go straight into your website. So I think Text-to-AI is a game-changing piece of AI software. I use it pretty much every day because it's just easy. I know what I want to say, but it's easier for me to just describe it and get something else like this to write it. So that's the first thing. So, okay, I've now used it, going back to my writing tools, to generate a bunch of letters, which I will hit this, generate this. These are the emails. I'm now going to want to do a second which is positive. And then I want to do another one, which is amusing. So I've got 3 emails ready now to send to my cold outreach program. So there they are. They're all ready. What you do to keep them is I just hit save. And they're saved for me, ready to go. They're in the cloud. Okay, so now I've got my emails. I need to send them to some people. This is a tool called Luna.ai, Luna.ai. Once again, this is pretty much free. What I'm about to do is set up a campaign to send some emails, and I'm going to send them to some accountants. Let's say what I want to do is send them to, well, VP of Human Resources. Get rid of all, oh no, these are all people that are, right, okay. So let's just say I don't really want chief talent officers or anything like that. Okay, so I've just put in some things that I want to do. I want to see them in management consulting, education, professional training. No, we change that. We only want them in the UK. And I only want companies that are 5 to 1,000. Okay. Now, within a couple of seconds, I did this a little bit earlier. So within a couple of seconds, it has just come up with a bunch of potential leads that I might want to talk to. So I can do a little bit of investigation of these people. Who is cohesive? Do they look like they might be the sort of person that I would like to reach out to? Okay, why not? Okay, so I've now got these leads. I will now go back to the campaign, and we will now write some emails. So what are we wanting to do? Well, what I've just done is I got an email here that I want to train the AI on writing an email to this person. So I'll take the email. Oh. And it's just now constructing some of those emails that I've given it, and it will come up with a series of emails, which I just basically then hit a button and it starts sending the emails for me. It is composing some new emails. So this was I knew this would take a little bit of time. So we're just in the process of training it. Okay. So it's come up with some example emails. If I'm happy, I'll save the changes. Now, unfortunately, it is going to take a little bit of time to do that. So what I'm going to just go on and do is show you exactly how we actually then send those. So what we do from that is we have to add an email account, which I've saved already. And then I'm going to have to be careful with this. I hit that button and it starts sending them. I'm not actually going to do that right at the moment because I'm afraid it might actually start sending them, and it's not really a well-trained campaign. But I start sending them to each of these people. It's actually in the background. It's looking for what the email address is. It's got their LinkedIn information. So you will combine this with I will reach out to this person and do an email or LinkedIn message to them. So what you do from this is you just hit start sending. I have set up some stuff in the background, which you can do here, which basically say how often I want them to be saved and things like that. So and it will notify me through WhatsApp or things like that if I want to receive messages back from this thing. So Luna, now why do I talk about Luna? Because there are a couple of tools that do this. One of the great things I think that Luna does better than anybody else is because it's putting some AI once again into the emails that you send. A lot of things that Google are noticing at the moment, if you send something to Google, you'll find that Google will spot an AI written email and will block it. And it's incredibly good at doing that. So I found deliverability with Luna to be better than others. It still does occasionally catch spam, and you've got to do a lot. And I would talk at length about this, but you've got to do a lot in order to make sure that your email is warmed up. And the other thing you have to do is I do not use for this cold outreach, if you like, my operational email. I have a separate domain that I use in order to be able to do this sort of thing, because if it does start to get caught by spam a lot, it could affect my operational emails. Those emails that I'm sending to my clients, they could end up being in spam, etc. So I use a slightly different email address for sending these cold emails. But I can't say doing anything other than sort of sending these emails has been successful. Okay, so that's writing emails, sending out emails, trying to generate leads. I've shown how this allows me to also connect with the people that are going to get these emails on LinkedIn. I am not going to talk about how to automate LinkedIn because LinkedIn don't like you to automate things. There are ways of automating LinkedIn. I'm not going to talk about that because there is a risk if you start automating LinkedIn, you will get blocked by Microsoft and you will lose access to your account. And that's not a great thing. But you can, if you want, take a different approach and automate some of this. I wouldn't take the risk with my LinkedIn account. It's too much of an important thing to me. So I just, when I'm doing this, click on that thing, and I would at that point message that person anyway with just a simple, just would love to have a conversation with you. And that's it. Okay, last two tools, and then we'll have time for questions. One of the things that you can easily do for your social media, and going back to the social media, is input and do it via video. And this is a tool which will generate from blog posts or anything like that, a video for you. Video is really important. video is something which is actually engaging people. You can easily post it onto LinkedIn. You can easily send it as a message to somebody. Okay. Let me just at the moment sort of suggest that we'll do an AI video. So this video is going to be about intermittent fasting again. What can be in we'd hope if I could spell the word strategy. I suppose it's second. Okay. And it now will compose a script and generate a video. Generating scripts like this is, and it will actually add in the voice as well with this. I think once again, this is a great way of spending half an hour of your day just generating simple videos using an AI tool. And these sort of things are the sort of things that are really useful if you once again understand the problem that somebody's got and you're able to give them the advice, what it is you're looking to try and do to help them, and you've got specific solutions. You put it into something like this. And this is why it's so important to understand those things, because otherwise what you do is you end up not hitting the mark. You get very generic things. But if you've got interesting and specific things that you want to say to people, it will generate for you a voiceover that you can use to put onto a video or a video complete, which you can actually then embed onto your can I share sound? Okay.
I think it
Can
should
you hear that? No.
No,
Hear
it
it?
might be like a sharing thing. Sometimes the share options, it'll say share with audio.
Okay. I'm not going to waste time like trying to look for it.
Imagination.
But okay, so it's generated a video for me. And I just hit publish and it will publish that for me. That with very little time is generated a video for me, which I can use immediately on social media. Once again, I found Lumen and its ability to generate interesting videos to be a great way of reaching out to people who don't know me by just generating a few things and sending it to them. The last tool I'm going to just show is it does contain AI, but it's actually a lot more than AI. This is how I end up automating a lot of these things. And it's something called Zapier. And I don't know if anybody's heard of Zapier, but Zapier is an automation and systems tool, which allow you to just take these complex actions and set them up so that they happen automatically. And with Zapier, you can link together pretty much every application I've come across and get it to do something else. I'm just going to show a couple of very simple examples. This is a live one, so I've got to be very careful I don't end up making a mess of this. But I've got a podcast and I have a podcast which is running. And one of the things I like to do is I like to think to myself, I don't want to have to spend a lot of time remembering to send emails to people for things. So I've just got a very simple little Zap, which actually does, it picks up a worksheet from a Google worksheet and it runs every time something happens on that worksheet. And then it very simply sends an email. So from the worksheet, there's the email address. I take that, I say who it's coming from, and I've written a small amount of detail here, which is I've had to write it in HTML, but it's not difficult to learn how to do that. But basically what it says is, dear person, thanks for spending time with us. You've said you want to do this. I've put that out of the spreadsheet. This is what I'd like you to do. And it sends it as an email immediately, and I don't have to do anything more than that. I have got one of these that picks up some stuff from Texter. As soon as I finished writing something that I want, it takes it makes any minor changes to it, and it puts it straight into a document ready for me to review. And it means that I don't have to go back to the Texter document. I can set it running and do several things, and it just automatically loads them to things. Zapier is a great way of automating things on a daily basis, which makes sure that you don't have to remember how to do all of this stuff. It happens for you automatically. And for Zapier, if I just go to the number of tools which you can actually add into Zapier, you'll see that in order to create one of these, it will just ask you through an AI tool again to describe what you're trying to do. So you might say, when I add a new and so writing these things used to be a pain because you had to learn how to write them. It took me a while to do it. Nowadays, you basically just do this and you go, yep, that's really what I'm trying to do. So it's new form submission. I want it to create a new route. And that's it. I've written that Zap. I have to do a little bit of which account it is that I'm picking up and do some configuration. It's disconnected that account, but I can do some configuration and just finish it off, and then it's ready to run. And it really is as simple as that. It doesn't need any more than me clicking a few things in order for me to actually send that information and removes any risk of me making mistakes or doing anything which requires my interaction. Once again, the reason I love doing these sort of things is because I would make mistakes if I was not doing this, because I would tend to rush and I would be trying to do too many things at the same time. By doing this, there's pretty much only me in the business, a couple of people that help me occasionally, but with me doing something like this, I would make mistakes. This allows me to do it without mistake. It allows me to do it with repetitively. It also allows me to run certain things overnight when I don't need to be monitoring them. So those are the sort of 4 tools that I use quite a lot on each daily basis. There are a bunch of others which I have got in the back of my head, which I have used, and I'm perfectly happy to try and talk about them. But really, just going back to the presentation, me stopping that share and sharing on another one. What I've been trying to say is the best way of doing this. You have to go out there, you have to try and experiment them and refine them. And then once you've got used to these tools, you can really scale them to really drive very sustainable business growth. Once you've understood them and you've got the basics, that understanding exactly who it is you're trying to talk to and what it is you're trying to tell them.